that song. Welcome to Brothers-In-Flaw Sports. I'm your host, Normie. We have our other host, Cunado, and down below, where he is best, Santana.
Power bottom.
So, got a lot of some NFL news to talk about. Maybe even get some UFL stuff. But before we start, Cunado, how you doing?
Doing all right. Normie, how about yourself, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I definitely have been here lately in the springtime mood. We got seeds started for our garden a couple days ago. The chickens are just pouring out eggs, I got that spring mind going right now. Ready to get some plants in the ground, but other than that, I'm doing pretty good. How about you, Santana?
Santana, you hear this? He's bragging about his monkey scrotum. That's what I'm hearing.
That's what I hear.
That MS, man. So how you been, Santana?
I'm all right, man. I think that I'm recovered, bracing for a long off season at this point. But I think 2 weeks worth of mourning is plenty at this point. You were talking about the Super Bowl, right? That is what you were asking me about.
Yeah, but just you in general. But I figured that would.
Yeah, the answer remains the same.
We have Miss Jenny down here. I need eggs. We'll get you some eggs.
I don't know if I want any eggs that are pouring out of anything. I feel like they need too many eggs. A little bit of resistance would be great.
I mean, right now on the counter, we've got like 4.5 dozen just sitting on the counter right now.
Gracious, they really are laying.
And I eat like 10 eggs and sometimes more a week, but I mean, that's like 2 days of laying for our ladies. So we got a bunch and they just keep getting more and more. Oh man. So you think you've recovered from that Super Bowl, Santana?
I mean, realistically, no. Like Cunado and I brought it up briefly earlier today, and I thought that I had gotten in a pretty good spot about it, and then just talking about it earlier, I was like, "Ah, God, no, I don't want to." Cody was just here, and we mentioned a little bit about it, and he said something about Christian fumbling on the first drive, and I went into my spiel about how the game could have been different, and then I know that it's all ifs and whats or whatever, but yeah. So no, I'm not over it. Don't think I will be over it. And specifically this off season, like I think that I don't know that I'll be able to listen to any sports. I think I'm strapping in for a really long and anxiety-ridden off season.
I've definitely been through that before with some Alabama seasons of, I know it was 2021 maybe, even though I knew we were probably going to lose to Georgia, it still just hurt. Like it hurt. And it was one of those, I didn't watch football for like 2 weeks afterwards. And even then it was one of those times where even leading up to preseason, because after 2020, leading up into 2021, I followed it and followed it and followed it, everything, and believed all the hype. And then 21 came and it was like, maybe a lot of this was a lot of hype. I especially love even with because Alabama was getting new coordinators like every other year, but I love it. Does this make y'all guys laugh too? Like, so when a new coach comes in and then they have to like quote the players saying like, oh yeah, he's awesome. This guy's coming in. He's great. We really like him. We're really getting on the same page. And I'm like, what the hell else is he gonna say? What are they gonna interview somebody and like say like Justice Haynes oh, DeBoer's an idiot. Like I don't know what we're gonna do this year, but this guy is not gonna be the answer, kind of thing.
We as Auburn fans quite literally just did this last year, and Robbie Ashford was like, man, me and Hugh, man, we were on the same page. We're going in the exact same direction. Guess who's transferring? Guess who didn't get the starting job? Which I actually disagree with, but that's a topic for, today we want. Topic for whenever the hell we want now that there's no more games being played. But yes, no, it is a funny concept, especially with the transfer portal. Not that I think that the transfer portal is a bad thing. I mean, the coaches can up and leave whenever the hell they want.
Yeah.
Actually, that's the thing that we didn't talk pre-show. How in the hell do you leave UCLA head coach to go to Ohio State offensive coordinator? Like, isn't that a lot? Like, and not only are you leaving it, you're not a no name. You're Chip Kelly. You
Chip
played for a
Kelly.
national championship. You're a well respected, like big name, like a dude. And you're
I listened to Bruce Feldman talk about this the other day, and I forgot. I think it was on the Rich Eisen show. I didn't realize, and he brought up how like Ryan Day and Chip Kelly grew up like apparently in the same neighborhood, like they were down the street from one another, or grew up. I think Chip Kelly's significantly older. I think Chip Kelly coached Ryan Day at whichever school Ryan Day went to, and they have been on the same staff before. Oh no, not only been on the same staff, he took Ryan Day with him to Philly and then also to San Francisco. So Ryan Day and Chip Kelly have a like extremely close relationship. And Chip was already, first off, I think that UCLA had soured on Chip. I think that Chip had soured on UCLA. And I think specifically just the responsibilities. We talked about it when the Saban retirement, that what's going on in college football is pushing a lot of old heads out of the game. And I think that Chip Kelly kind of sits there. He didn't like recruiting in the first place. He wasn't. I think one of the reasons he didn't choose Florida, other than the way that SEC schools operate with their, football people have fingers in the operation that they shouldn't. Other than that, I think that a major part was that he didn't want to recruit as hard. So I think that UCLA, and he did pretty decent job at UCLA. They got better every year. The recruits that they brought in were working for what they were doing. But the Pac-12 has disintegrated, so UCLA is going to the Big Ten, so they will be in the same conference. But he was already interviewing, or at least his name was mentioned for a few NFL offense coordinator jobs, which obviously makes sense. Like if he decided, I can't do this college football head coaching thing anymore because all of the things, NIL, transfer portal, what have you, I'm going to go call plays in the NFL. It's like, okay, that makes sense. But then you hear that he's going to Ohio State, and I think all of what y'all were just saying, like I think all of our brains just kind of exploded until I heard the relationship that he has with Ryan Day. So now you almost were guaranteed. Realistically, I think UCLA is a team that now with 12 teams in the playoffs, which is something else we can get into in a minute. I think UCLA had a reasonable shot to eventually make the playoffs. Were they ever really seriously going to compete for a national championship? I highly doubt it. So that's something that he can check off his box if he wants to get, like Ohio State will. Like Ohio State will be competing. They will be a top 6 team every year, as long as, it's Ohio State. So even without Ryan Day, but Ryan Day has them in a position where they will be top 6 or so every year. Chip Kelly gets to be involved with that. So initially, yes, I don't think, or it blew my mind that why would you take a demotion in college football and in the same division or in the same conference? But then once I found out his relationship with Ryan Day, plus the fact that he was already trying to get out of that position anyway, and the relationship that it sounds like he had, or the dwindling relationship that he had at UCLA, it makes a lot more sense to me now, for sure. Not to say,
okay, yeah, I get it. Also, just a quick little a blurb for the listeners who are watching us live and to you two. I will give you guys $5 out of my wallet personally, if you can name which college Chip Kelly coached Ryan Day at. You got listeners. You guys got the benefit of Googling this, so you have like 10 seconds.
New Hampshire.
Did you Google it? I actually believe you. All right. I need $5.
Let's say Santana's knowledge on that stuff.
Well, again, I just listened to Bruce Feldman talk about this too. And I have listened to where Chip Kelly has come from. He's one of the coaches that like, where did Chip Kelly come from? That's on ESPN like once every 3 years. And you're like, no.
So do you think that part of the deal for him to go there was that like he's like, hey, unless it's like a 5-star recruit, I don't want to talk to anybody. Like I don't want to go to any like recruiting things,
I would like
anything
to
like
hear.
that.
Yeah, I would like to hear what kind of conversation went into that, because I would imagine that he obviously is going to have to do some recruiting. You can't just not
Yeah.
recruit. But I do think that he more than likely did have a, hey Ryan, I'm not going to do any of the like major heavy lifting. If they're here, if they're in the building, I will talk to them. But I'm not driving with the offensive line coach, 3 states over, or whatever, whatever the situation may be. Like I do think that like he's not. I mean, he doesn't have social media. He's part of that old group where he's not on social media. He's probably not a efficient texter. Like all the way that you would communicate with kids these days, like legit. Like I would imagine that that's kind of his reaction. The actually really more surprising to me about this situation is that now Chip Kelly, a lauded play caller, he's an amazing play caller. He and Malzahn, coming off the heels of Rich Rodriguez, are kind of synonymous and famous for making offense what it is right now as far as speed and no huddle and the read options and such. But Ryan Day is maybe the best play caller in the country. So for him to be giving up play calling duties, which I guess I haven't heard for a fact that he was, but I'm pretty sure that he said that before even Chip Kelly got hired. I'm pretty sure he had already said, I'm going to step away from play calling.
Yeah, like when Bill O'Brien was hired for like a day.
Yeah, 30 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also a whole other topic of conversation that we can or cannot get into, whatever you guys want to do. Talk about a hot seat that is weirdly hot. It would be Ryan Day, because obviously the man does nothing but win, but he has a hump that he just can't get over, especially after Harbaugh. Now he doesn't really have to worry about that little bump in the road anymore. But
it's not as big a bump, but it's still a bump.
Oh yeah, I think Michigan.
I think Sherrone Moore is going to do a fine job.
I agree with
well,
that.
It's not like Harbaugh left the cupboard bare. Like
no, it's still a very good program. In fact, Harbaugh, one of his knocks, speaking of recruiting, is that he rarely had Michigan in like the top 6 or 7 recruiting. He was generally a top 10 guy, like 8, 9, 10.
That's so sad. Sorry, but this is so sad considering all the stupid stunts he would pull to get in touch and talk with recruits that it still didn't work. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
But just like Ryan Day, I think he's making moves like this in recruiting a guy like Chip Kelly, because he knows that like that pressure is weirdly building, because Ohio State's not a fan base that's going to sit back and be that close to the mountaintop and be okay with just being close to the mountaintop. Obviously, everything's about to change next year. We are literally going from 4 to 12 teams, so the field gets so much more expansive.
And also going to these super conferences.
Exactly, yeah. Conference realignment is going to be just bonkers next year. Schedules are so wild next year. But I think that Ryan Day starts to recruit former coach, former coworker, all that kind of stuff, because he kind of sees writing on the wall, like my time is now or my time is not.
Well, I think maybe you can say that about both of them. Like Ryan Day says, "Hey Chip, I'm going to take a step back and focus on the grand scheme. You come over here, call plays, because it's either now or never." And then Chip goes, "Well, if I want to win anything significant, it's clearly not going to happen at UCLA in the next 5 years, but it could happen at Ohio State like this year."
Yeah, this upcoming season, it could happen for them.
And they have done so much work with the transfer portal. In fact, speaking of Alabama, Nick Saban stepping away, talk about another massive change in college football. Say what you want about Nick Saban, whether you love him or you hate him or whatever, but that is a vacuum that he has left. That is just a massive change. it's obviously none of us were really alive for the Bear Bryant stepping out, down, passing away shortly after. And obviously, I don't hope that happens next Saban. I'm actually really excited about his booth work. But what it does do is like leave a door wide open, and Ohio State has benefited from the transfer portal from Alabama players left and right. I mean, I think they've gotten like 5 already.
Well,
And not to mention recruits that weren't committed that are now leaning Ohio State way or just completely flipping their commitments.
well, yeah, and especially they got that who I would have considered the number one person in the transfer portal, Caleb Downs.
Yep.
I mean, not everybody would, but I would consider it because I watched him play all year, and that dude can play, and he's only going to get better. So, to me, that was the biggest like hit for us. Like the other guys, like, all right, yeah, Bond. It's like, okay, yeah, that's a loss, but all right, I think we can get over that.
I really wish that you guys had gotten over that, before the Iron Bowl, but
Anari or Nye Black. Okay, yeah, but we got some good tight ends come. We had a good tight end come in. We already had some good tight ends that just needed an opportunity because I don't know. Alabama hasn't thrown to tight ends since AJ McCarron was there.
Yeah, I was gonna say OJ Howard.
Well, I mean they did. Speaking of somebody, they didn't even use OJ Howard like he's supposed to. It was the national championship game when he had like 200 yards and a couple touchdowns. That was like the only big game he had his entire career there. But like the last one I could think of was, and he really wasn't that big of a tight end, was that Kevin Norwood. But I was like, yeah, okay, that was good. That Caleb Downs one there, it's like that's a tough one because that's not like okay, well he's can be kind of replaceable kind of thing, or like maybe somebody else can step up. No, that dude, there's no like replacing him. So them picking him up, Ohio State's gonna be dangerous next year.
Agreed. Well, and that's the thing, like it does kind of feel like they're selling the house to win now. As a Rams fan, I've seen it done, and that it kind of has that feel. And good luck to them. I suppose. Good luck to everybody. I suppose. Ohio State is a tough fan base to pull for. They're
I was
kind
about
of
to say, like, those guys that went to Texas, and it's like, all right, fine. I hope you do well. The guys that went to Florida State, hey, okay, fine. No, Ohio State, I don't like them. I never have. Them, USC, of course, Tennessee is by far I hate them the most. I would pull for Russia before I pulled for Tennessee. Like, in anything, and I've even tried to, but then like I'll watch and then they'll do something stupid or get scored on. And I'm like, yeah, all right. Even if it's a non-SEC team, like in a bowl game or something, I'm pulling for that other team.
Wasn't Barkley's quote? I would pull for the Taliban before I pulled for Alabama.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
he is.
That's up there with that quote there, Norman. That's funny.
But even like with Auburn, like I can pull for Auburn, because I don't know. I just don't find Auburn as
we're not a threat.
No, it's not that, because definitely shit.
Significantly more than Tennessee at this point, for sure.
Out of all the teams that have been a threat to Alabama, and especially in this Saban run, Auburn was the one.
Yeah. That's
I mean,
fair.
Tennessee beat him one time. How many times Auburn beat him?
More than anybody else. Yeah.
More than 3 or 4.
4 total times. 3 under Gus, 4 under Gus as OC 2010, and then this year should have been.
Yeah. Well, even Harson's first year, y'all should have beat us then.
Yep.
Had Tank Bixby not run out of bounds, y'all would have.
Yeah, I mean, but other than the comeback 2010, it does have to happen on our sacred ground
Oh, yeah.
where just the craziest things happen. When Auburn travels to Bryant-Denny under the Saban era, legitimately like if you take 2010 out of it, it's generally a bloodbath.
Next year would be really huge for Freeze, especially like to kind of set a new wave of what is supposed to happen. Like if he were able to pull out a win in Bryant-Denny next year in DeBoer's first season, I think that would kind of set the tone. It'd probably make a lot of, and by set the tone, I mean like it would give some momentum to the program, I think. Not to say that the next year couldn't get ugly for the other side, but there's just so much like uneven ground, so much unsure footing right now for the new regime at Alabama. If they were to start like the very first Iron Bowl for this new coaching staff to lose to Hugh Freeze on what should be the next step forward for the sophomore season for Hugh Freeze. Hadn't really thought about that until just now.
Well, Saban lost to Auburn his first year. No, I think that was probably at Auburn, if I remember right. I don't know.
Yeah, that odd years at Auburn. And
yeah,
that was 07.
That was 07. So that, I mean, I think it would be definitely more of a hit for DeBoer because it will be in Tuscaloosa. And also Saban inherited a program in shambles.
Right. It's not the same
whereas
thing.
DeBoer
Right.
is DeBoer is inheriting a year-old, like Lamborghini.
Have you seen the videos? And it's just to me when I saw it was standard warm-ups. It's them going through like their stretches and they're doing like the jumps and the leaps and whatever, and like all the comments, all the internet people are like, oh, the program's in shambles because it, whatever they're doing at the time they're frolicking, right? But like all of us were in athletics when we were young men, and obviously you do a lot of jumping and to loosen up or whatever. So for us, it's not a big deal, but for the idiots on the internet, people were making fun of what was going on. But it got me thinking, like something that I hadn't really thought about, like how many drastic to minute changes are happening in that program, and where most teams go through a coaching change and it's like, okay, on to the next guy. It sucks because that was my coach, but he's moved on, or they moved on from him, on to the next guy. What is it like being a junior, senior, somebody who had been with Saban and that staff for a long time, been recruited, like had really deep, like what is it like to, well, I mean, that's not how Coach Saban would have done it, or that's not, like I would love to be a fly on the wall in a lot of the conversations for the locker room. It may not be anything like that. I was just thinking like how the fan base, like had the fan base seen that exact video, but the straw hat was standing over there blowing the whistle, they wouldn't have said anything about it. But because it's something new, everybody's up in a roar about it. And I just got to think about, like, what about the players? Like, what are they seeing in the locker room, in the building, that are just, they're like, no, that's not how Nick would have done it,
Yeah, that's one of those things that I thought of that even when Saban retired, just of whoever comes in, because even playing I remember playing like a 7th grade year, and then 8th grade year we had different coaches, like all different coaches, and it was totally weird. Or even just thinking about like, when you're working a job and you get a new boss at a job, and it's like you've been doing this thing like this for a couple of years, and then the new boss comes in and wants to change everything. It's like, wait a minute, we haven't done that like that. We always did it like this.
Right. And then it worked. It worked when we did it like that.
Yeah.
So why would we change? And specifically in Alabama's situations, like not only has it worked, it's worked better than any sports program in the history of sports. So why would we change anything? Like, just you call different plays, you put it, y'all run game days differently, but everything else leading up to the time that it just was something that I hadn't thought about. The difficulties for DeBoer and that staff going forward were the minuscule, like just day-to-day stuff, like from the posters that get hung on the wall, or I don't know if teams still use posters, from the giant iPads that teams hang on the walls or whatever it is, new touchscreen stuff, like just the shit that pops up,
or just even like the workout routine, or
yeah,
even like, because I know like even Cole Kubik talked about when he was at Auburn, one of his years they got a new strength and conditioning, and then they swapped and they would run first and then lift weights.
Yeah.
And all the maxes went down, and he was like, this is bull crap. We've always done it where we lift weights and then run. That way you're not too tired to lift the weights. And even things like that.
Well, and yeah, I mean, and because it's not even just about talking about somebody like Kublik, who was on that Auburn team, a leader and a senior player. Like, so it's one thing for like these freshmen coming in, or the freshmen last year going into being sophomores. It's one thing for them, but some of these juniors and seniors have been there for 4 and 5 years at this point.
Some of them,
longer than
6
that.
years.
Yeah,
like
and
year.
have been like, their routine is so set, and it's not like any human has a hard time breaking into a new routine, but none of the three of us have been in like the epitome of success of a routine like Alabama players and Alabama fans have, right? So any little change has to feel so bizarre.
So Elbiona says, someone on social media today described Alabama fans under the age of 30 as equivalent to trust fund babies because they were raised on Saban's Alabama. They never knew the grind like other teams. Yeah, that's definitely true, because I barely remember it, but I remember the Dumbos days. I remember the Mike Shula days.
And I miss Shula. That was
the Dennis Franchione like sprinkled in there a little bit, and him, claiming he loved Alabama and then left in the middle of the night, but and then ended up going to Texas A&M and getting beat by Oklahoma by 77, which was the best. That was the best non-Alabama game I've probably ever watched, because that was so funny. But yeah, it is definitely true. Luckily, like I talked about earlier, like after that 2021 preseason stuff, when I really got into it, and then after that's when I kind of was like, okay, like I gotta loosen my expectations, because we've already had great success, and this is like a once in a century type of thing, or type of run.
So we thought
that, and like we lived through that, and that was my team. Like, I gotta lower those expectations and just be happy with what we do. But it's, for a lot of Bama fans, it is hard to do that.
Well, and you should be able to, is not the way that I wanted to say that, but like, yeah, you should be trying to look back and like, look how great, like nobody will ever accomplish that. But I do understand where it's like, when it becomes you're accustomed to it, when it becomes the norm. Cunado actually, going back to that specific conversation, compared what San Francisco is doing right now to what Alabama has done. Not obviously in the same manner, but I as a 49ers fan am expecting to be at the very least in the NFC Championship. We should be competing every year at this point to go to the Super Bowl. So that means next year, if we, and I think this is actually going to happen, if San Francisco struggles to make it in, like I think that we'll finish second in the division, probably to the Rams, the second best LA team. We can get to that in just a minute too. But if they struggle, get in at a wild card, getting beat in wild card weekend or divisional round, that's going to be a massive failure for the team. And that's kind of where Alabama put themselves. It's where Georgia is now. And then going back to cherishing what Alabama did, and we talked about this last week, the week before, what Alabama did, we thought once in a generation, this will never happen. Kirby's already nipping at the heels, or Kirby's not nipping at the heels, but Kirby has shown that he has, what he's setting up over there has the ability to become what Nick did. And then very similarly to what we talked about Brady and the Patriots, not something you're going to see probably ever again. And now Mahomes and Andy Reid are actually nipping at the heels. Like that is a closer conversation.
Yeah, I definitely understand it because even like, yeah, I harp on that 2021 season, but we won the SEC championship, and at the end of the national championship, we were driving to try and to tie the game. Now Bryce threw a pick six, but that's how we were still 2 minutes left, or even a little less than that, driving to try and tie the game. And I still kind of saw it as a bad year. Look at last year. Like, their majority of Alabama fans will tell you last year was like a bad year, a failure year.
Yeah, you lost a game and then I was about to say you lost one game regular season. Then you played USF close, and so everybody's like, "Well, the world's fallen. We should fire Saban," because that's how people think.
Yeah.
And then they went and lost in overtime to the eventual dominating in it national champion.
Yeah.
And then there are a lot of fans that said that's a failed year, and that's the standard that he set, which is again so bizarre to me that person exists, let alone that somebody he taught how to do the job. Basically, that may be overstating, but he was the longest tenured assistant, is now chasing that exact situation. And had it not been for Alabama this year, we may be talking about Georgia.
Yeah, had it been a 12 team, I think had it been a 12 team this year, Georgia would have won.
Well, and we're going to find out next year. Like, that's what I'm so excited about, that, because I don't think that this is going to give you any like Giants beating the undefeated Patriots type of situations. I don't think that we're going to get that type of Cinderella type stuff. But I do think that there will be at least one major upset every year. I mean, out of 12 teams, and they're playing, I mean, it's campus games to start, right? Or have they decided that?
Yeah, no, it will be your top four will get a bye, and then 5 through 12 top seed gets a campus game, and then I guess
so
next
we're not
round would be the bowl games, and then whatever they call the national championship.
So maybe not a 12 to high seed type situation, but somewhere in that like 4 to 8 realm. Like, we're going to get some major upsets, and so at least one a year. That'll bring some excitement to it. But it will allow the best team, which more than likely was Georgia this year. It will allow, so where I will miss the pseudo elimination that was what the regular season used to be, which it hasn't been in a long time for college football, and where I will miss Bama beating Georgia in the SEC championship to decide whether or not Georgia goes, like that level of elimination. I will miss that, but I think we will get that type of drama and more with the 12 team, because I think that it would, I mean, if we want the best team to win, that Georgia would have made it, and Georgia may have gotten to the end and won it all anyways, even.
But it also, you get to knock off those teams that were like, that would be like the Florida States,
right?
Which I'm sorry, but Florida State without Jordan Travis was not Florida State, and they weren't the same team. They didn't belong there, and I don't think them getting beat by Georgia really showed, or as bad as they did, really showed like.
No, and especially
because they had a lot of people opt out things, but Florida State wouldn't have done anything.
Okay, so
and I think that would have been, had the 12 team been this year, it would have been a chance for Georgia to get in there, possibly prove like, hey, they are the best, but also like a team like Florida State to get in there to be like, yeah, this team wasn't. Even after all this team definitely wasn't as good as everybody claims they were.
Playing the hypothetical game on this, and I've got the final CFP rankings where, number 1 Michigan, number 2 Washington, number 3 Texas, number 4 Alabama. All 4 of those teams would have gotten a bye, and then obviously played the seeds that they would have played afterwards. But the very first round, Florida State would have hosted number 12 Oklahoma. How do you guys think that
Liberty.
game would have gone?
They would have hosted number 12 Liberty.
I've got Oklahoma on my final
Because it would
CFP.
be the best group of 5, which will probably always be the 12 seed.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I'm just going like 1 through 12 on how the rankings were.
Yeah,
this
because
year.
you gotta throw that in there too, because
Yeah,
a group of 5 is guaranteed.
They would have
But
been
that
the
would have
number
been
5
Liberty.
seed, so it would have been Liberty hosting Oklahoma in that ranking. You're right, Normie, 100%. But we'll just toss that one out for right now and just do what, because yes, the top non-Power 5 conference winner ranked or whatever will be the number 5 seed generally. I mean, obviously, maybe there's a Cinderella story where they make the top 4 rankings, but I think the only team that's done that in our lifetime is Boise State back during Oklahoma.
Will they be the number 5, or would they make them the number 12 seed?
No, they'd be a guaranteed like top 5. It's your like 5 and 7 new format. So your top 5 ranked conference champions will be 1 through 5. Almost every time.
I don't like it.
Almost every time, other than like I said, like a Boise State, very special miracle type year, your group of 5 team will be. So you're right. So it would be in this scenario of what we're going forward to. It would have been Liberty hosting, although that would probably kick Oklahoma. So then it would be Liberty hosting Ole Miss, given those rankings. And then Florida State hosting Penn State. But like I said, that's all very high. And all
just that. I just can't wait for the situation. Like, just listening to that. Because, again, going back to the potential upset stuff, like, Ole Miss travels to Liberty. Okay, if Liberty and Ole Miss play on neutral field or in Oxford, more than likely Ole Miss is at least starts at a 7.5 or larger favorite. Mm-hmm. But going to Liberty, it's probably the same type of expectation, but just that travel for the playoffs, like it meaning more, and you going to Liberty and the environment that Liberty could give, and not Liberty specific. I'm just talking about like a smaller school because they won their conference.
Or Boise or Fresno State.
One of these teams won the right to host, and this other team is a at-large team. So I mean, yeah, send Oklahoma to Boise State or something like that. Like that would be that's what makes this kind of like really neat, is that teams who otherwise wouldn't really stand a chance on a level playing field gets at least home field advantage. You know, I mean, it may not be for anything. It may not mean shit, but just think, when you said Oklahoma goes to Liberty, I thought, yeah, that is exactly what I want out of all of these playoffs. Like, because that's what college football should be, is just weird shit happening. Like, that's what makes college football fun.
All right, I could see that. I was, because with my thought, I was thinking, okay, group of 5 team automatic, but probably going to be the 12 seed, because they're probably going to be ranked at the highest 15th, and that's a really good year for one of those group of 5 teams. Yeah, probably going to be in the 20s. So,
but in saying that too, though, because these super conferences, you know, I've spoken about this a couple of times, like the eating each other up that the SEC already did
and has done for years
and has done forever is about to get harder, because we just added, not only did we add like blue blood programs, but both of them are in good spots. Like there have been times that you could have added Texas and Oklahoma and they would have come over here and gotten their asses kicked. We're bringing in 2 really good football programs at the moment. And
not Oklahoma for our lifetime. They've been pretty fucking good.
Yeah, but Bob Stoops was there, and I just believe in my heart that SEC schools hate Bob Stoops as much as they should. And I think
Bob Stoops didn't even like Bob Stoops.
Nobody, yeah, his kids. Nobody likes Bob Stoops.
Mark Stoops turns his chair around at Thanksgiving, so he doesn't have to look at Bob.
He didn't even go.
Mike doesn't, because he keeps getting hired by Bob.
Yeah,
Mike needs a job, so he still talks to Bob. But Mark's fine. He's at his basketball school, and he'll be all right.
Yeah, he wins his 8 games every so often. He's good.
But no, speaking of a coaching change, I mean, obviously when son of a bitch, why can't I think of
Riley.
his name? Thank you. Lincoln Riley went to USC. I think speaking of Bob Stoops, he was offended because he was the guy who basically just set Lincoln Riley right up into like, dude, you're gonna get inherit talking about a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or whatever, and like put his neck on the line.
Well,
a year old Lamborghini.
And wherever you think that he could have still been doing exactly what he's doing at USC and what he was doing at Oklahoma, and I don't think that people would have been getting antsy. But I mean, it's already kind of like in the ether that people are tired of him at USC. And
man, like he might have
he burned a major bridge at a prime job to go out there and possibly get fired.
Do you think he was scared of going to the SEC and that pretty much what's happening now?
Love that argument. I don't know if that's true, but I do love that argument because I'm proud of what the SEC is. But no, I don't know if that's true or not. I like to think that coaches are competitive. They're just really competitive.
Yeah.
And that they wouldn't be scared of a challenge. But I mean, maybe it's not for the love of the game, or maybe it's not for love of competition. He's just good at it and he can make money doing it. So he does it.
Or it could have been USC was always just a dream job for him.
It could have been. It just blows my mind when speaking of Kelly, when other Kelly left Notre Dame for LSU, like, your options or your opportunity to win a national championship are almost for sure higher at LSU, but
no nation like SEC Nation.
But to leave a program like Notre Dame, like that's like one of the jobs. And
yeah, it seemed more like a lateral move, but
yeah.
Also, I think Notre Dame was kind of like, I think he saw the writing on the wall because I think Notre Dame was kind of getting a little sour on him too, because again, he had been there, but never been able to win those big games.
Look,
couldn't plant the flag on get the mountaintop. Can't
very much like Oklahoma with Riley. If he had just stayed the course, I don't think that Oklahoma fires Riley.
No, they don't.
I don't know that Notre Dame fires Kelly because I just those are programs that just aren't going to make it to the top. Like I think that they had their time in the spotlight, but I just don't think that a Notre Dame plays a schedule that is going to translate into winning consistently. And don't get me wrong, they have played extremely tough schedules. I mean, USC is on the schedule every year. I think USC is kind of past its area of winning national championships. I think that it has shifted to a Southern realm mixed with literally Michigan and Ohio State. Like I'm really not. Clemson snuck in there for a little bit, but I don't see them making a climb back, or anybody in the SEC other than Florida State.
And they're also
they're on there.
I mean, South Carolina.
Riley was bringing that Oklahoma program into such a great and dangerous direction, because I mean, the offense was never a question. Even under Bob Stoops, the offense was it had never been a question. He made the offense better, but he was bringing in defensive recruits and defensive coaches, and that defense was getting better and better each year. And that's the only thing Oklahoma had ever really lacked, because the way the Big 12 is,
right? Yeah,
they're not really defense heavy. It's all about offenses, but he was bringing that defense, kicking and screaming, but it was improving and getting to that point. And that was my biggest kind of why would you leave that? You did all this work, you're almost there.
And now
then you go to a program that's in shambles.
It's in shambles, and his offense has been great. I mean, he had the Heisman winner, or took the Heisman winner with him. and offense this year was great too. But he started over on the defensive side where it was always his knock at Oklahoma, and yes, it did improve, but it was his knock, and then he goes to USC where it is now further behind than where Oklahoma was. His knock again, and now he's at a program that won't fuck around with failure. They're ready for him to either win or find something else to do.
And
he chose that over just being in Oklahoma. Oklahoma is one of the top programs of all in the history of football. Just do that. Stay. I don't know. We'll never know. We'll never know the whys or the hows or.
Hopefully they do a 30 for 30 on a lot of these questions that we raise.
Yeah.
We'll start sending the show to.
I was going to say, like, we need to start tagging our show.
Yeah.
It's not even Brothers-In-Flaw. It's future 30 for 30 questions. And listen to the questions that we have.
Maybe we need to do like one of those top 5 videos of like what 30 for 30 college footballs should they make?
That's a really good idea there, Norman. We should do that.
Because
write it down.
I'm doing it now.
You're dead on, Santana, as far as like obviously the money was right. And I think USC is a private organization, so we don't know the full contract details, but just the smoke around that fire was almost $15 million a year, free house, this, that, or the other. But then you also have to incorporate California taxes and all that.
And just being California itself.
And just being in California, LB Ona, I think that it was just being in California. That's my opinion. I do think that there's a bit of fear that came with the SEC. I come with some bias.
Well, and when he decided to go, he didn't know that the Pac-12 was about to implode.
Bingo.
So
that USC was going to go to the Big Ten.
Right. So he was thinking, or a good chance that he was thinking, this is an easier path because I'm about to go over there where Nick is still coaching and not retired. If I stay
fish
here
in a little pond.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I like Lincoln Riley's offenses. When he loses this job, if he wants to come call plays at Auburn,
or even head coach.
Look, I don't know.
No, as an Auburn fan, I like defense.
I do enjoy defense. Yeah, it's one of the things that we can stand on from year to year.
We generally have pretty good defenses.
Hear me out. Tinfoil hat, crazy conspiracy theory. Lincoln Riley goes to Auburn, head coach. He pulls Kevin Steele out of retirement. Kevin Steele doesn't take a salary, so he keeps his retirement. Some booster pays him, $2 million to just be in a commercial.
NIL Kevin Steele.
He eats at Niffers for free.
Yeah.
Hey, Niffers is a damn good restaurant.
They do that. He's just some guy on the sidelines that's cheering on Auburn's defense, even though he knows all the plays, and maybe just he's patting guys on the back kind of as they go into the game or something like that.
I wouldn't hate it, Normie. Like if that scenario happened, I wouldn't hate it.
I'm not gonna lie, because after this season, seeing like just the improvement of the defense from Pete Golding to Kevin Steele, like I'm a huge fan. I see why y'all loved him.
He's good at his job.
It's good.
He knows his shit.
Well, and obviously hindsight, but it was rumored that he was going to get the job after Gus, and everybody threw a fit. And I was one of them. I was like, nah, I don't think so, man. I love him as defense coordinator. I just don't think that hiring like that 90-year-old dude is the way to go for where college football is. Like, no. And then they're like Harsin, and I was like, this will work. Like, he's not a 90-year-old dude. And we all see how that ended up. But
yeah.
But no, I have never had a problem with what Steele does when it comes to the X's and O's on the defensive side of the ball. And again, that's what's weird to me about Riley's situation, where he doesn't bring a strong defense regularly. Like, it's got to be more than just who you're hiring, because they're out there. There are guys out there who are I mean, who was at Washington State and Ohio State, and then I think Mississippi State.
Oh, Alex Grinch?
Yes, Grinch. He hired him specifically at Oklahoma to fix that, and people like him,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well respected and
well
fired.
respected. Got fired. So
I don't know.
So I don't know I don't know if it's culture. I don't know if it's an over focus on offense. I can't imagine.
I think it's got to be culture, Santana, because the recruits also, when he was at Oklahoma and now at USC, he's still getting 4 and 5 star defensive recruits. It's not like the cupboard is bare as far as like talent goes there. Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think it's a culture thing, where like the head coach is just like, okay, defense, you guys go do whatever the hell you guys want to do. Our focus is literally everything else. And well, there's 3 phases to the game, and I don't know if one is more important than the other, but I think that Lincoln Riley thinks that one is more important than the other 2, at least.
He at least favors one, whether he finds them all. I mean, that there's a lot going back to Ryan Day. Ohio State's defenses are always good, and he's one of the top offensive guys. Nick Saban's was always one of the top defensive guys, and his offense were always good. Like, you have Shanahan right now is arguably the best offensive guy in the league. The Chiefs, Andy Reid is probably the best offensive guy in the league. Their defense this year, that's what's weird to me about Lincoln Riley, is like, why have you not found a way to delegate that and delegate it appropriately to where it's a focus or
Well, even Lane Kiffin, brought in Pete Golding. I mean, I don't like him, but for Ole Miss, that was a huge, huge win for them.
Yeah,
because their defenses were abysmal for a couple of years. Like, worst in the league, or worse than the SEC, bad.
Well, I mean, I think that the best head coaches understand that it is a 3-part game. Like, you have to be successful at all 3 levels. And so for one of the top paid, top talked about, top respected, Heisman winning quarterback coaching multiple Heisman quarterbacks, for him to not ever produce a defense that is like really worth a damn. And that's going to be why he ends up not coaching at USC anymore.
Yeah. And it's also one of those things. They don't have to be Georgia's defense. They don't have to be an Alabama style. Just
because of the offenses, you only have to keep some points off the board. You don't have to be like this.
Or even, you don't even have to keep points on the board. Just hold the field goals.
Yeah.
25 points and under.
Yeah. We're gonna score 35 at least every game.
Give me more opportunities than them.
Yes.
Just give me the ball more times than they get the ball, and we'll make it happen.
Even a top 15, hell, maybe even a top 20 defense. It's really all they need.
Well, I mean, thinking about the times that Auburn's offenses were so good between Cam Newton and the 2013 year, where those defenses statistically were not great, but what they were good at was, okay, you can have all the yards you want, but here, you take a field goal here, take a field goal there, and then
don't break.
Bend don't break, which is an Auburn. That's an Auburn tradition anyway. But specifically for those teams, like, there were no like specific studs that just. I mean,
Nick Fairley.
I was about to say, like, let's not get started out. We'll be here naming players all night. But just the thinking about the star of the team those years were the offense, and those offenses couldn't have been as successful if those defenses weren't as quietly successful. So it's not like you have to be a dominating defense, a famous defense. You don't have to be 85 Bears. You just have to be successful when it matters,
Well, like 2019 LSU, their defense was not that great that year. It wasn't one game. 2020
Buddy,
Alabama.
that
Their
that
defense
29
was not great that year.
that 2019 LSU team told the defense, "Hey, if you hold the other team to 30, we
Yeah.
got you."
Yeah,
If you hold the other team to 40,
Yeah,
we got you.
and get us the ball last.
do y'all don't even have to play. We'll spot them 60
Yeah,
and then just give us the time and let's see what happens.
But speaking of LSU and Brian Kelly, it looks like he tried to incorporate that this year with Jaden Daniels, and it turns out that 40 was not enough of a minimum,
But
or a
speaking
maximum.
I didn't even really think about them, but they're on the same level of what USC has been. Like Jaden Daniels does what he did this year, but last year that offense was not as prolific. And if you're not stopped, I mean, and especially it's so weird to see LSU not have a good defense. But yeah, this past season, Jaden Daniels was a one-man 2,000-yard offense, and they couldn't stop a nosebleed. So.
Well, and speak of a quiet hot seat, Brian Kelly jumping ship from Notre Dame to LSU. You guys were talking about maybe it's a lateral move, this, that, or the other. I kind of understand it, given that Notre Dame is not in the near future, at least by surface appearances, going to play for conference championships. So they will always go in at large, even in the new format. So there's that, and then recruiting ground. LSU is as fertile as it gets for the population that they have. They might be even number one, just per capita. But a quiet hot seat. He's gone to LSU. Obviously, he's only 2 years in. First year was better than expected. Second year was a huge drop off because of defense. It just you can't win it on one side of the ball.
No,
you just can't.
not
Especially
in this day and age.
like at the tippy top level, it takes 3 phases, very specifically 2. I will say that I can actually take out special teams somewhat because I watched Nick Saban win national championships with kickers who could kick the ball with their heel backwards, and it would have been better than them actually attempting field goals sometimes.
But Nick Saban, except for maybe 2 or 3 seasons, Nick Saban always had a really good punter.
Yeah.
And he always had some guy back there that could return kickoffs and punts.
Yeah. Agreed. So, yeah, it was really just a field goal situation.
Yeah.
So it was an aspect of that third phase, not the whole third phase. And actually, even got asked multiple times about
the field
using
goal
stars to return kicks and punts. And he's like, if they're the best at the job,
yeah,
they're the ones who are going to
not only return people, but he uses his starters as gunners on both.
Jamison Williams got a targeting penalty in that Auburn game.
Yeah, it's
on punt.
One of my favorite things about Saban and his philosophy was like the best players are going to play all of the position. Like if I can get them on the field, they're going to be on the field, and I think that's how it should be. And especially for him, who has consistently had these amazing recruiting classes, for him to have to humble some of these people, like, oh, motherfucker, you're playing special teams, bud. Like you are playing special teams. Why? Like Julio Jones was a gunner on punt team at some point. Like that guy, like that dude could have been drafted as a true freshman and was playing special teams and not the glory roles of special teams. It's one thing to have them returning. It's another thing to have them.
Smith, Henry Ruggs, Josh Jacobs returned a block punt in the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he always had those guys out there.
Well, I mean, and kind of goes to that I don't know if it's old school or greatness or whatever, but at least some, and once again, I don't even know if we're turning the page on the era, but his, good buddy Bill Belichick, Rob Gronkowski got significant injuries 2 different times, broke his forearm blocking for a field goal. That's all he was in. He was in there as a blocker because he was the best blocker at that specific point on the line. And then I can't remember the other one, but he had 2 significant injuries for special teams play. he gets the one, you think maybe they'll pull him and not risk it anymore because you're talking about a Hall of Fame tight end. Nope. Put him right back in because best man available for the job. That's how we win games. And if injuries happen because it's a risk. I'm sorry to bring this up, Santana, but it's literally a risk if you're running onto the field. Trey Greenville. And what a
too soon,
kick
man.
in the
Too soon.
gonads.
Too soon.
I was about to bring up before that weird bring up. Speaking of Patriots special teams, did you guys see that Matthew Slater retired?
Mm-hmm.
Which he did, and I saw. I actually just had to Google it to make sure that I saw it, but I saw it through Tom Brady posted something, and I haven't seen what Tom Brady said, but like, can you guys name any other like very specifically special teams player like that? Like, not a return guy, like not a glory position, but Matthew Slater did like so much for the Patriots for like 15 years. He was a gunner and just special teams. And I actually thought about this the other day when I was thinking about him. I was like, you know, he made a name for himself as a special teams guy. I think his true position is receiver. So like in your off-season workout and then in your day-to-day practice, are you drilling receiver, like positional receiver stuff? Or do you even like in your off time, are you just like, no, I'm just gonna like get somebody to chunk a ball downfield. I'm just gonna see how fast I can get to it. Or
yeah, I don't know.
Oh, that's sweet, Tom. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, I have no clue how Tom is as an actual person, but he at least presents himself well, and that was a good message. And talking about that third phase of the game that oftentimes goes unlooked, special teams is huge. I mean, it close to home. Once again, sorry, Normie. This is or not Normie. Santana. This is close to home. It lost Auburn this year's Iron Bowl, and it lost San Fran this year's Super Bowl with special teams. I mean,
let's change this. Let's change this show to like movie reviews. Let's get out of sports.
We do Star Wars channel.
Yeah, let's just like straight talk
how
Star
Disney
Wars.
Star Wars sucks.
Hey, bud. Hey.
Oh no, you stepped on another toe. Perfect.
Now I'm really intrigued. You like Disney Star Wars? Like, holy crap.
But
No.
I'm the type of Star Wars fan that when those block letters pop up on my screen, I don't care. Yeah, I don't care what comes at like, and also there's nothing about the new Star Wars movies or anything that like if you put them next to there's a lot. I don't want to hash out all those Star Wars things. For me personally, I love Star Wars in the manner that like as long as it is Star Wars, I will watch it, and there's a really, really, really good chance I find something to enjoy about it. It can be drivel, it can be garbage. There's a good chance that if it is Star Wars, I will find something that I enjoy about it. They just watched the new launched the new season of Bad Batch, and I watched the first 3 episodes of that, and came away at the end of it just being like, Disney can make Star Wars until I die, because I will eat it up. I love it. I really don't understand the hate, because
well, not everybody's a masochist like you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I'm actually not that. Like,
I know we're talking.
I know
we're talking Super Bowl and Auburn losses and Star Wars. What am I doing here?
You're a
feels
huge
like a
Star
dog
Wars
pile.
person. I mean, I like the originals. Now, I will say the Disney trilogy made me appreciate the prequels a lot more, but except the third prequel, I can't even think of its name. That one's one of the my favorites. But
Well, and
the
see,
first two prequels,
if we're
not very
talking if we're
great.
talking
Oh,
straight,
Revenge of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith. That one's a damn good movie.
it's a fantastic, it's a fun, all of it's fun. That's the thing, is like, what are we expecting when we go into this stuff? And I'm not looking for like Oscar nominated like storytelling. Like the original three, if you want to poke holes in it, you can. One of my favorite things is the Family Guy Star
love
Wars
that.
shit, because one of the best things about being a Star Wars fan is making fun of Star Wars. That's what I think that a lot of the fan base and a lot of just humans in general have just lost, is like, that this whole thing was for children from the very beginning. Like, all of the concepts are it's just fun. It's just fun and light and good versus evil and hope overall. Like, there's just no reason to be mad about any of it, and but all the movies are great. I would watch all the movies. All the movies are great. But I specifically remember all the hate that Disney stuff is getting. Like, the prequels got that also. Like, got it real bad, And I don't know. Like, it's space wizards. Like, what? It's space wizards and starships, and I just don't understand why we can't all.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for getting us back on sports.
Back to sports. We do need to do a pop culture show at one time.
Just well, yeah,
dedicate one Thursday in the off season.
100%. Especially if Kenyatta's going to keep bringing up like negative losses in my sports life. Yeah,
but that was sports related. Talking about just the third phase of the game, and
I was going to say that was my fault.
Right off the top of my head, which literally cost massive moments. But yeah.
But speaking of stepping on toes, any thoughts on Eli Gold no longer announcing for Alabama football?
What do you think?
I will say, me personally, I'm pretty fucking pissed.
Yeah,
the way they fucking handled that is absolutely fucking ridiculous to treat that man.
Yeah,
that is the guy that's been there since 1988. He should decide when he wants to fucking leave.
He's called.
That is the fucking voice of Alabama football. Has been for a long time.
He's all the great,
fantastic job, and you couldn't even give him a fucking season just to come in like Vern fucking Lundquist, who was terrible and shitty, and I still hate him to this fucking day, even though he was in Happy Gilmore. But still, like, give him his year of like, hey, this is my last year. Let's go out on a bang. Go to all these places and just, have the fans get to say their goodbyes as well. Have him to have that final ride. It's fucking bullshit. And I am really pissed. Like that. Sorry, but I heard about this earlier. I read the article, and even the Alabama trolls, the people that troll on Alabama fans in Alabama, are pissed off about this. Like, just the way they treated this man. Yeah, that. And just to the point where he has to actually come out and say, no, I didn't retire. They pushed me out.
That's what, yeah. I actually am glad to hear that you have this fire behind it, because I kind of thought when I read it was like, okay, that seems kind of fucky. And so, yeah, to hear from an Alabama fan, yeah, that's exactly how I think I would have reacted in a similar situation. And that's what I read was Eli said, no, they just didn't bring me back like that. Yeah. I would have been back, but they didn't bring me back. And then for him to clarify, it has nothing to do with health. I'm healthy as a horse, as he said.
Oh, and I'm looking for other things currently right now.
Oh, dude.
They've already tried to pin health as an issue 2 or 3 more times now. And Vern is like, yeah, I had some issues. I overcame them. I'm good. I want to come back. I love my job as like the voice of the Crimson Tide. I'm with you there, Normie. And I'm not an Alabama fan. Like Eli Gold has not been the
Yeah,
voice
but I think
of my team.
no, but
But
he's
he
been
is classic.
he's the voice of again 88 Normie, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is called the 92, right?
Yeah.
He's called all of Saban shit,
Yep.
right? So not only has he hit these peaks, but he's also been through all of the bad times. Like he's a voice of, when I think of football, I think of Eli Gold.
Yeah.
Like he's somebody that I think of, you know. I've heard him forever and oftentimes negative, but I've also heard him make calls like, you know, and when Auburn was doing good shit, you know, like I think that he's the ultimate professional. I think that he's always been so good.
Mm-hmm.
He's been that borderline. He's clearly a homer, which
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think you need that when you have when it's your team. Like I think you want it to be a homer, you know.
Of course.
But he's also good at like assessment, you know. Like I think that he's not like just, I don't know. It blew my mind, and I'm stoked that you felt the fire that you did, man. Because like that's kind of how I think that I would have felt in a very similar situation.
Yeah, if that had happened to, and I, you know, so, man, I am just king of bringing up bad memories tonight. But if Rod Bramblett had gotten to go through the career that Eli Gold, and I think that he would have had that type of career. I do
too.
Yeah,
he was amazing.
And I love Bertram, but it just
yeah, Andy Bertram's incredible. No knock on him whatsoever, but he's new. I mean, this is his second year. It doesn't matter. I mean, he's great. It's not like he's doing a bad job. It's just like I was delivering pizzas when I was attending Auburn University, and so, you know, when I couldn't watch it on the screen in the restaurant or whatever, I had Bramblett on the radio. And then kind of a similar thing for growing up in a house full of Alabama fans. There were multiple times where we would mute the TV and put Eli Gold in the radio call on, like, and sync up to the TV. Because
that was one of my favorite things about the playoffs and the national championships, doing the hometown radio thing. That I always watched that. Now I hated that they always had a camera on Saban, like just give me the full camera. But we always watched that one. Like I didn't watch the regular broadcast. I want to listen to Eli Gold and I want it synced to the actual video. And
they did him dirty. They did him super dirty.
I don't get it. I guess my only thing is they, such a huge change as the head coach, but they're not really bringing anybody in. Like Stewart's been there. He's the voice of Alabama basketball. He was the color guy with Eli.
Was that already announced that he's
gonna take over?
Well, I mean,
and
at
I
least you get somebody that is capable. Like,
well, I mean, he's been there since 1998.
Yeah, and I like him. He's or has been in the past a guest on the Next Round Guys. That's how I know him more than really even listening. But
the voice of the Montevallo Eagles,
really?
has been the voice of Alabama men's basketball for a long time, which is Bertram for baseball. I don't know if he's not basketball, or maybe he is. I don't know. I'm talking out my ass now, but C-Stu has been involved. He's definitely been the voice of the Bama men's basketball, and then I think he got his start, and he's a grad of the University of Montevallo.
But I'll tell you, I miss the Eli Gold, Kenny Stabler. That was peak. Now Kenny Stabler had to go, a little crazy, and they kind of moved him on and brought Stewart in. But I think
did
they'll be fine.
Go crazy, or was he just kind of
hiding it?
He started there a little.
Yeah, he might have always been there. But it really blows my mind, and they should have let him call his shot whenever he wanted to leave.
For sure.
I agree.
It's I don't know. It's a real F up on NBL. It's a real F up on Alabama's part there.
Well,
Like
the thing
I
is,
don't
like,
know what the thing was like because it's not like they can't pay him if he wanted more money.
I was like,
And
$1
I don't think that he
million
would be in a
is-
situation that he would be asking, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I bet that guy would have taken $1 contract.
I mean,
You
and he's
know?
probably comfortable enough at this point to just do it for free, like just to do it. Like,
Yeah, I
Or
mean, he's
even
still
hell, a booster
huge in
like the
NASCAR.
whole
Like, he's
Kevin
still,
Steele
like-
thing, just
Yeah.
NIL.
yeah,
A booster comes in and pays his salary.
I think it was they did a classic Bama man dirty, and
Mhm.
coupling this with the coaching change, I don't think speaks well for where you guys might be in the next few years. And I'm not pulling against DeBoer. I think DeBoer, he seems like a really good dude, and everybody talks about like how easy he is to talk to and how relatable he is with everybody that he's ever interacted with. I've heard nothing but positive things. But it's like, okay, so this, once again, it's a vacuum. It's a power vacuum. This one massive presence leaves, and now it's like, okay, we have free reign to change everything. And I just think that was a bad move,
Mhm.
very bad move, and a very bad look
And
because
at
Well,
a very
especially
bad time.
bad time. Yeah, especially bad time. Just we've talked on here about just do you want to be the guy that follows the guy, right? Now, I think that DeBoer is. I think that he's going to be successful. I think that clearly the cupboard is not bare. Nick has also just been around.
Yes, I'm in total agreement. UA is going to regret the decision. Nothing against Chris Stewart, but he ain't the man. Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, just when you have a legend,
Yeah.
like let the legend himself out. Like sometimes it's hard to I don't know. I mean, Florida State kind of did it. Penn State was set up to do it before. God,
Penn State got
Yeah.
them. They get them tracks greased, and
yeah, they had the decision made
That's
for
not a
them
laughing
pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
Sorry, it's not laughing. It's terrible. It's terrible.
It's
shit.
terrible. It's not good. It's not a laughing matter.
But if they wanted to get rid of Joe Pa, man, that they got handed every bit of paperwork they
But
needed to be handed.
again,
to
I
get
think
rid
that
of his ass.
you allow
Killed him.
the best ones. And again, I think that Nick deciding that this was his year, I think that if he decided that he takes a year off and he goes, I missed the game too much and came back next year, the guy could put another team that's not Alabama in position to win within 3 years. Like that's just who he is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I lost my train of thought.
Well, I don't know if I
You
can
do?
help you. Yeah, I also lost my train of thought. In the words of
Charles Barkley, Kenyatta, terrible. Just terrible.
Horrible.
Terrible.
Terrible. You spelled it wrong, Albiona, but terrible.
Terrible.
Terrible. I don't know, man. Like, okay, I was thinking of a counterpoint as far as like, so yes, Florida State did basically force Bobby Bowden out. And maybe it was time. I don't know. I didn't like it. Obviously, they went to won a national championship.
What are you doing?
Speaking of special teams,
Are you like Googling all the worst moments in history?
I don't know. Those are the ones that stick with you. But thinking about a guy, and I don't want this to go viral in the negative way. Not that I think we're going to go viral in any way, but how long do you think it is before they start to push Lee Corso out? Especially with Saban now coming on to game day.
I don't think that it'll be a push out, and that's actually a really good comparison. I was trying to think of somebody who would be in a similar situation as Eli, that somebody would make a move like that. Corso's a really good point. I don't think that they will. I think that he already has had his role reduced. I
Yes,
think
dramatically.
right, and in a positive manner, like because I think the first 2 shows this year, I think maybe even all 3 of us talked about it at some point about the first 2 or 3 shows he was kind of shaky, but then it got to a point where Lee was back to like him, like he seemed fit, and his and Herb Street's bouncing off each other was really good. But I think they've already planned on just for all that they do, because do you remember game day used to be kind of like desk central, and now they do all sorts of shit. They move all over the vicinity, and Pat McAfee's kind of taking some star power over the desk, and then now adding Saban. Like I think that they'll allow Corso to go when he wants to go, but they are going to make it easier for him to exist, which I think is the best way to put that. Is like I think that like making it easier for him to. We want you here as long as you want to be here. Here's how you can be here without being. You don't have to really contribute anything other than you being you.
Just let us know what you want to do, how much you want to do, and then when you want to quit, let us know.
Yeah, and here's how we can make it. And Herbie, I mean, I think that one of the great things in the college football season is watching Herb Street and Lee Corso, not when they're talking and not when the camera's specifically on them, but if you're looking at the entire crew and watching Kirk's hand on Lee's hand, or Lee's hand on Kirk's arm, or whatever, just like watching those two interact is one of my favorite things about football season.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it's just it's sweet. It's
very sweet.
Yeah.
I will always have a special place in my heart for Corso, but I think it won't be much longer for him.
It's this one or next one. I mean, I don't think that we have many more seasons.
2 years would shock me, honestly.
Unless they can again, just now you have not only Pat added to the group, but now Saban too. Corso's role could become very minimal, like just very little. So,
well, one thing they haven't taken away from him is the picks. But even then, it's so much shakier now. Like you're not even worried about who he's picking. You're more worried about like, can he get that headgear on his head? And it's not sad. I mean, time comes for us all. And he's, speaking of health issues, dealt with, at least one stroke. I think it's just the one stroke, but it was a big stroke, and it put him down and has made him not less than, just different than. But it is one of those things like, get it on your head, buddy. let's get there.
Well, I mean, you can kind of see a transition of energy on the desk too. Is like, I enjoyed McAfee's like riling up the crowd. He did it a couple times this year, riling up the crowd and then picking the opposite team. I think that you can kind of see a transition where like Corso will eventually not be at the desk, and so now the new thing is what shenanigans does McAfee get into, or Saban's picking. What does Saban pick? So I think that we are, hopefully gracefully setting up a transition where Lee Corso will step away.
McAfee is a great addition, but even if you look at the COVID year, I mean, he was at his house, but he still did everything from his house, and they could even set something like that up to where he doesn't even have to leave home. You send him 2 mascot heads.
Well, yeah. And I think
then he can do it from home. Like,
you don't even have to send him the 2 because he already knows.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that would work like on the show. I think that I think that any football fan is a nostalgic football fan, right? I think that like a lot of what we all enjoy about sports is growing up watching sports, right? So for us three, people of our age, and older and younger, but we know Lee Corso to be what he's a staple, part of for me personally, every first Saturday, I may miss some game days throughout the year, but every first Saturday, like I'm going to see that desk, the people behind it, the signs. Like I'm going to watch Corso's headgear pick. So it, however it'll change going forward, making it like people will respond to whatever they do for Corso. If he is literally at his house, I think the crowds will respond out of nostalgia, if nothing else.
And
love for the man.
Like the runway.
I don't want to cheapen that.
Go ahead one more time.
I just said in love. I said for nostalgia, but love for the man. I didn't want to cheapen how we all feel about the human.
Yeah, no, 100%. But like, it kind of seems like ESPN is giving him that runway as much as they can, and that's why the Eli Gold thing. I know that Alabama's not ESPN, and it all comes down to dollars and cents and business or whatever. But I might be way off base here, but I think Eli Gold was to Alabama football what Lee Corso is to game day these days. And to force him out, at least let him get a flower year.
Yeah.
Like, if he wants a walk-off year, give him a walk-off year. You can tell him, like, this is your final year, but this is your final year. They didn't give him that.
Wouldn't even let him do the freaking A-Day game.
Well, I would like to hear. Well, yeah, that's what it feels like in the dark of the night. Like, why? Like, what is the explanation? Like, is it contract? Is it age? Is it health? Like, not that because he said he's fine, but are they concerned about it? Like, I would just like to hear the university side of it. And is it? I mean, because if they came out and said we're just going for a clean sweep, we're changing everything. Like, this is a drastic change for us. We're changing everything. Then I would go, okay, lame excuse, but I get it, right?
But also you could go, well, what's Chris Stewart still doing there?
Yeah, that's fair too. Yeah.
Because that was my thing. Okay. Because I even thought of that, like, hey, okay, well, maybe, Saban's gone. Maybe they, like you said, doing the clean sweep. And then it's like, well, Chris Stewart's still there. Like, it's
not an over change. It's no.
So I don't get it. Chris has had health issues. I did not know that.
I didn't know that either.
He had it. He had shit going on before Eli did. He was gone from, and what little I know, and clearly not a lot. His involvement with the next round. He was gone for a little bit and then he came back.
Well, yeah, no, now that you're talking about that, Santana, because Dunaway from the next round filled in for him on quite a few basketball games within the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, it's fairly recent. But so I'd have to look at timelines, but I thought that his stuff crept up before Eli's.
Stroke and had to wear shaded lenses. Thank you, MBL, for that information.
Yeah, I mean, so you can blame it on health all you want, and maybe what it really comes down to, once again, and we all know the world as it is, was dollars and cents, but Eli Gold does feel like the kind of guy to where you basically could have told him, we'll pay you $100 contract for the rest of the season, but this is your last season. Do it as you'd like. Whereas it more feels like in the dark of night, they yanked the rug out from underneath the man's feet. And I don't know. I think they did him dirty.
He would have done it for a plate of wings at Buffalo Phil's. And
I really do think he would have. I really do.
Yeah.
And we could be way off base on that. I don't know. I mean,
again, the thing that
it's not like the man doesn't have value.
Yeah.
Well, and what got me was reading what his response was. Like, it came out that he was fired. It wasn't that it came out that it wasn't. He came out and said, "Hey, they're not like bringing me back." I
Yeah.
didn't make that decision. They are not bringing me back. So that's what made me kind of like, and again, Normie, I'm so glad that you reacted the way that you did, because that's just how I envisioned, like, just that guy. Like, for me, an Auburn fan, to have as many memories about Eli Gold as I do, that's that guy, and for them to not allow him to have his swan song, but also for him to come out and be like, hey,
Yeah, they threw me to the curb.
Yeah, just before anybody starts questioning what I've got going on, I'm good. That was them. And it's like, damn.
It's telling.
I didn't even talk to my my Bammer wife about this. I need to bring that up when I get out of here.
Oh yeah, and your
You and your Bama daughter.
well, I don't think she'll know too much on that regard, but
she's gonna grow up. She's gonna grow up in the perfect time.
I'd like to hear his thoughts.
Yeah, oh shit, I need to call him. Yeah.
We'll figure out how to rope him in next week for we'll revisit the conversation and get Santana Father-in-Flaw, that is.
Father-in-Flaw.
Oh, that would be a good segment. Get Mark.
He's a fiery man, very specifically when it comes to Alabama.
And get Mark and Daryl and
raised on Alabama.
Larry Main.
I do wonder what Daryl's contributions to this show would be.
I do kind of wonder. I wish I would have listened to Paul Feinbaum the day that it happened and gotten to see what the callers thought.
That show is.
That would have been the one time I'd actually be fine with the callers listening to them, because most of the time it's just like, okay, next. But that would have been the one time I'd be like, all right, I want to hear all these people's comments on it. So,
yeah, I'm looking forward to the internet for the next couple of days, and I definitely want to hear the next round. Speaking of shows that I want to hear about their opinions on it, because I mean, again, I think that it's that substantial, like that we're going to be hearing about it for a little bit, like especially at the time frame. Like, had they not renewed him or brought him back last year, it's like, okay, but like, Alabama's okay, Saban's there. But then Saban retires, and then there's already so much like, oh God, the sky is falling.
Exactly. I was just thinking that earlier. Like, all those fans are all thinking right now, the sky is falling.
Yeah,
it's not that same exact reference.
Yeah. Oh my God, the sky is falling. It's like, no, it's fine. Holy shit, they didn't renew Eli Gold. It's like, oh my God, the sky is falling.
Yeah.
It's a weird one. It really is. I mean, straight out of left field, and it in the coincidence with how much change is happening at that program. Well, Normie, how do you feel about going into next season, where I've seen very, very knee-jerk reaction-y preseason rankings, you guys as low as 10, which is nothing that we've seen since 2008.
Honestly, my expectations aren't very high. As far as my Alabama expectations aren't very high. I'll rephrase it that way. Like we said a couple weeks ago, like, Alabama fans, you need to get ready for that second loss. Very rarely did we have that second loss in the regular season. Get ready for it, because it's probably going to happen. Now, with the 12-team format coming in, not as big a deal. Honestly, if we finish around 10, I think I'll be fine. I do think a lot of, especially the rankings and everything, they're going to rank them a lot lower, just because of the Saban factor not being there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I always hated coming in every year and then Alabama's going to be ranked number 1 or number 1. I'm like, no, I want to be ranked like 5th or 6th coming in, and then that way there's not that like
target bullseye
there's
on your
the
back.
target's not there. There's the opportunity for the team to get kind of the big head and get complacent isn't there. You have that motivation of, hey, look what they're saying about you. They don't look what they're saying about you. They think you're number 10. They think this Florida State team is better than you.
Which I think that Saban took advantage of stuff like that more
all
than
the
once.
time.
Yeah.
Psychological master.
Mm-hmm. So
Well,
I'm fine with that.
Well, and again, you have to just get in the 12. Like that's another thing about this. Like if you just come in the top 12, Bama from here on to the rest of time, if they are in the top 12, they will be dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that Saban, like you can say what you want to about Bear. I just don't think that Bama will ever fall to what it did post Bear, and they won a national championship with Stallings, but I don't think that we will ever look at Bama like, oh, they need to like reamp their shit again. Like, I don't think we'll hit Shula. I don't think we'll hit any of that because of what Saban has done and in the age that he has done it. Because I've talked a bunch about how I think that sports specifically has benefited from exposure, like being able to just see all of it all the time in your hand at all times, like the way that people train and the way that people coach and the way that people learn. I think I think that it's just constantly here. And now Bama for the last 20 years has been right here in people's faces. So I think that we will never see a fall off of Bama again.
I hope not.
But no, but now we will see a fall off for. Well, and he could, like that guy could, like that he could pull that team through anything. But now he not only has pulled that team through everything, he's pulled that university through a lot. He's pulled the city through a lot. Like that dude has done more for the sport and the city that he did it in than like maybe anybody ever, really. And so you may get those 2 losses, but if you fall in that.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Well, if you may get those 2 losses, and that may shake up your fandom. But if you're in that top 12, Bama probably forever will be a scary team to have in that top 12.
Going back to what you were talking about, obviously the tornadoes of 2013 and him and Miss Terry were boots on ground, not to mention all the money they dumped into it. And but like when he got there, Bama was a 70% in-school state. By the time he finished, they were 60% out of state. And then you asked the students that were there why they came from California, Oregon, Washington. Nick Saban, football. I mean, he did. And then not to mention, like Santana was saying, the money that he dumped into the city.
Not even his personal money, just like what that program has become,
just what it brought in.
What it brought in.
Right? Yeah, 100%. I mean, he did wonders for it. So, no, I don't think we'll ever see anything like that. And in this state, I mean, maybe Kirby's going to do it over in Georgia. Maybe Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid will become the Chiefs will become the new Patriots. I don't know. It's weird to see something so close to something that you thought that couldn't be accomplished because it's never been accomplished before. And then like you see the steps for some of these people like that are, oh, damn. I mean, they're not that far off yet. I mean, obviously Georgia only has 2 and Chiefs only have 3 to the Patriots 6 and 8 appearances, whatever. It's just, I do fully believe that no one's going to touch Nick Saban's legacy in this state or in college football in our lifetime. I don't, no knock on Kirby Smart. I just don't think that anybody's going to be that dominant. I actually think that the 12-team playoffs is probably the big, and especially like Nick Saban leaving right before the 12 teams start is like Kirby Smart probably is just cussing at his pillow at night. It's like, damn it, it was going to be me. Now you've got 12 teams coming in. You will see those types of upsets. You will see weird stuff happening. It opens the field so much more wide open. I mean, he thought he was probably poised to be the next Nick Saban. I don't think that we'll see a Nick Saban once again in our lifetimes, but there are a lot of people who watch Bear Bryant and Nick Saban. And as much as I love Bear Bryant, let's go ahead and put it all on the table.
NBL
Nick Saban
says,
is the greatest of all time.
NBL says, well, he had the help of Miss Terry. Let's not forget the woman behind the legend. Exactly.
Oh, 100%. And she's still doing her. There's 3 different press clippings where she's still keeping the GOAT in line. It's like, hey,
Yep.
we've got pictures with the Beamers over here. Come on. Yeah. No, I mean, if there's a great man, look for the great woman behind him making it happen. And Miss Terry is certainly that. I love Miss Terry.
Mm-hmm.
Also a legend.
They definitely will be missed.
And they're not going anywhere. Like, they specifically want to be there in Tuscaloosa. It's their home, and they're involved in everything. You know, like, gotta appreciate greatness.
Mm-hmm. All right, fellas, we're getting about hour and 45. It's getting close to 9 o'clock. Anything else y'all would like to go over?
I got a list, but we don't have to keep going.
Okay. I don't know if this is on your list antenna, and we don't have to get into it now. But since we're all here together, turns out, guys, we actually don't talk ad nauseum throughout the week. But I do want to get into the UFL for Normie's sake. He's a big fan. He's a season ticket holder.
For the show's sake, we are huge supporters, and at any point that they would want to sponsor the show, we would be glad to have it.
No more. I really wasn't trying to at any point either.
It came kind of frequent is the only thing.
It was weirdly. It's all very fresh on the brain.
It felt coincidental, but it was like happening like a lot.
I did not mean to dogpile on
it was a universe thing, I think.
But yeah, for the sake of it, we are the biggest UFL fans, and I am psyched for the season. We have a countdown, actually. 36 days, 12 hours, and 57 minutes.
I can't wait.
And obviously,
and we'll live show from the first game.
Well, the first game is in Arlington. So
okay, well, go downtown and sit outside the stadium.
There we go. We can do that.
We'll do this and put it on TV somewhere.
Well, the Stallions do have a fan group called the Horsemen, and they usually do some kind of like a watch party at a local bar or something like that. So I think they did like Avondale, things, places like that.
Well, we all got phones. We could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can set up, and then let's do it. Mark it down. Write that.
Mark it down. 36 days, 12 hours, and now 55 minutes.
March 30th.
Yeah,
that's a better way to go about it.
That works better. For anybody tuning in, we will get into the UFL. We can start breaking stuff like that down.
Hashtag giddy up.
Definitely want to get into Harbaugh at the Chargers. I know Santana and I have talked about that a little bit.
That's on my list. Yeah.
Yeah, I figured that might be on your list. I'm very curious about that. So, anyways, that's just kind of like teasing towards next episodes. That's all I had. That's what I do.
You were like the living, like the Kevin James, like him in his pockets, the that is you. That it's always been you. Like, can't you do that?
I'm either teasing shit or I am burying Santana completely accidentally. I will say that.
Allegedly.
Alrighty. Well, we got a lot of stuff to talk about next week, so please tune in. Thank you everybody who was watching and in the chat participating. Elbiona, MBL, thank you so much for being here. Thank you everybody who may watch the replay, and if you haven't already, can you hit that thumbs up down at the bottom there, and also hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell so you can get a notification for every time we go live and do a show. And if y'all don't have anything else, I guess we'll see everybody next time.